Hello and welcome back to the LCS and the LCS waiting room where we're looking to kick off week 5 of our LCS action. Oh! Lordy, a Palafox.
Get away from the camera, sir.
Devontae.
Hey!
What did we just post up a tripod now for all the... Oh, Mark Z. Good friend of ours.
Unbelievable.
Power of Evil, the rest of Immortals making their way in after picking up a very big win for themselves last week.
Spy cam.
Team Liquid rolling up in style in that skinned car, the Honda car.
Do they have 2 TL mobiles, or
That's
is
a
it
good
just like
question.
clown car?
You know what I hope? No, my hope is that they actually arrived in a van and then they did 2 separate takes of driving the car back 20 feet, putting 5 more people in it.
Yeah, a little
Loading up.
car.
I know, we have our own.
We shrunk it down.
That's the car we have. They gave us that car.
Honey,
Just
I
to rub it
accidentally shrunk the TL mobile.
It's like, oh, would you like a TL car as well? Yes,
Yeah.
here's the toy.
It
I
is
see
very
that
cute.
thing driving around LA all the time.
It's amazing.
It's
If you stick around in the West LA area, you're gonna see the Honda car
I've never
all over the place. You never see it? You gotta get out more, Emily.
Yeah.
Stop watching LPL.
Also, I don't leave my house.
Stop spending all that time watching LPL, LCK, and LEC. All right, patch 12.13, that's what we moved to coming into week number 5. So that's where we are going to start. Let's talk about what League of Legends looks like on this patch.
I know Raz and I both talked about this.
Who's gonna break the news?
Break it.
We
Break the
want
news.
Corky to be dead.
I've wanted Corky to be dead for so long. Is he finally dead?
I think he's dead.
Thank God he's dead.
still been played 2 times. Once in Academy, 1 time in LEC. It wasn't pretty.
How did he
in
do?
LEC.
Okay.
In the LEC, no, Humanoid got destroyed, but he also went Gale Force, so that was also pretty troll. The Academy game tripled it quite well. So it's playable, but also with some of the other mid lane buffs, specifically Taliyah got buffed, Q damage is up. Also, Vex got buffs. We're seeing just a lot more diversity in the mid lane, and Azir is reigning terror. So now that Corky has been neutralized, Azir is just yeah, I am the god here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what's interesting, patch notes are one thing, but then meta evolution is another thing. We're seeing a lot of just Sylas picked, because one thing about Sylas is, 1, people have changed the build again, so they're maxing Q for better wave clear.
Yeah.
And then 2, just the champions that are prevalent in the meta right now, like Gnar, are just getting picked.
Yeah.
So you can pick Sylas, and it's pretty good chance you're gonna have good ultimates to use. So I think weirdly, the mid meta is the one that's gonna see the biggest change, especially if Corky's not as strong anymore.
Yes.
It opens things up for more Taliyah and more Sylas.
What's interesting to me, the smaller point on the side of that screen is the objective bounty changes that are quite large in the sense that Drakes are gonna kind of count less, it feels like, just reading the notes. It feels like, because the biggest concern a lot of the times was that if a team that was behind just had a lot of Drakes, then that would just be that would be counted pretty heavily. So that one, of course, the lingering bounties too is also, or at least the idea of, if a team closes the gap, the bounties will change. So it's not gonna be the team that has a lead or a recent lead having a bounty. So that's nice. Also, lethality mythics, they now have 5 movement speed added to them. And specifically, I've seen a lot of Draven, but the item Eclipse itself got nerfed actually from 6% max HP damage to 3%. So those are small changes that are noteworthy there.
Another thing I'm curious to see is if we'll see Renekton creeping back in.
Oh.
I've seen him a little bit. But then also Sivir. The Sivir changes are interesting. She was so broken
adjusted.
that
we usually gloss over that adjused collar.
She had to be hotfixed.
That is true.
Adjusted.
No, she had to be adjusted.
The initial release is a little broken.
Yeah.
But I would like to see Sivir come back. There were a few LEC drafts yesterday that I was kind of, one of them hovered the Sivir and then they ended up going Draven, which is something we haven't seen here, but we still have seen a lot elsewhere. But I'm curious to see if people will maybe pick up Sivir, because I think she's really strong.
Yeah, I mean, even to try and predict where some of these things would happen, I think CLG is a team that might benefit from both of these. They've played Taliyah mid and
Sivir
already.
That's a good point.
And Vex.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say Palafox, Taliyah, Vex.
This is a big Palafox
They scream CLG, don't they?
good.
I do have one other question, and it's fine if there's really not an answer to this, but I just noticed that Volibear, Elise, Evelyn, Fiddlesticks, Karthus, Master Yi, Olaf, a lot of jungle champions, or at least champions that have been predisposed to going in the jungle before. Do we feel like there's much of a shakeup to the jungle meta coming, or that these other lanes take precedence?
I think those will be slower for change.
Okay.
I think Fiddlesticks is a strong champion, and I think Karthus is always a champion that if there is a Karthus player in the enemy team, you're like, oh, actually, we need to ban the champ. Because I think he is just strong, period. So these changes do move the dial, I think, slowly.
Okay.
Because right now, AD junglers are still preferential. And mostly because we just have heavy AP mid and top lane. Gwen is another champion that we've been seeing a little bit more top lane alongside Azir. So if we're just gonna have those strong AP champs right now that are picked so consistently, that we're just gonna have AD junglers. So we'll just probably see more Lee Sin. People won't be happy about it, but we're gonna see it.
All right, time will tell. From the patch to some roster news, it wouldn't be the LCS if we didn't have some kind of a roster shuffle coming into the week. Spawn will be stepping into play in the LCS here for Dignitas. That's the big... I actually would have laughed if that actually did play out.
Like you just pressed the
That really would. Also, I'm so mad. Earlier, the camera missed a really great moment from Jat, just going, systems. It was like a really gifable like systems moment, but it was on a single of Raz, and I was so mad. I was like, I want that. Systems. That's how we explain that.
To the Telstra.
Spawn in for Dignitas. What do we make of this? Because Dignitas, I think the whole year has been an interesting. Just go before I put a seed.
One thing is I think Academy AD carry is pretty stacked.
Yeah.
There's some really good Academy ADs. I mean, Instinct, who had a pentakill last week, I think a lot of people would rank him like 4th or 5th, performance-wise, based on what it's seen in the split. Yone, Cowrie, I'm gonna get his name eventually. And Spawn is actually a very strong Academy AD carry, so I think they're just hoping for a shakeup. I don't necessarily think Neo is super underperforming, but the team is underperforming, and they have a well-performing AD carry in Academy, so give them a chance.
All right.
Yeah, Spawn's been performing quite well. I think my biggest thing on it is that we should see Neo back, if like just depending, because I think Neo is like mechanically incredibly strong, and has a stronger laning phase generally speaking. But the problem has always been when it comes to the mid game to late game team fights, where Dignitas actually tend to suffer, and Neo gets picked out, and that's where Spawn flourishes, is in his team fighting, and so that's probably going to be the marked difference between the two players that I would say is there.
One other roster move to take note of, Emily, is something that we kind of already saw at least take half place, with Soul stepping in for TSM, but officially announced that Huni will be filling into a coaching position on the roster. So a week after Jat said it, prophesied Kachuni. He's out there on stage already supporting the team. It was so great to have him on the broadcast that day, and even to begin to hear the way he talked about how he would approach helping, especially Soul, but the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can already tell, like, Soul in interviews on stage and elsewhere has given Huni a lot of credit for helping him individually and like helping his play, helping him see the rest of the map. But Huni obviously has a really good mind for the game. He has, more importantly, a lot of experience. And I think when we're talking about players stepping into a coaching role, he should, just based on that, have a really good baseline level of respect and good communication with the team. So it sounds like he's been working with them a bit. And I know he was like, when he was on here and talking about them, he really wanted them to get that first win while he was casting, because he had worked with them. So I'll be really interested to see him on stage.
I think the timing is pretty important too. The fact that Soul's coming in for his first games in the LCS, and so just having somebody like Huni who's been in that position, incredibly experienced, and so like when he's thinking about his champions, he can give him a few options. And when you're giving the last words before you leave stage, he can give him an idea, and I just give confidence is what I ultimately want. And so I think it's a perfect timing for the team that are making changes.
The point of confidence, I think, is probably the biggest one for me. What I love about this is that Huni is a player, he's seen the top. He's been to the top, you know, made it to a world final. He's also had some pretty low lows, but this is a guy who has rebounded every single time, and that's what I'm excited about. Maybe he can do for this roster. He can be that maybe stabilizing, confidence-building force for a roster of young players who are going to take some time to figure out the LCS. They're going to have some failures. They're going to have some great plays like we've already seen, and I want to see a player like Huni behind them now really pushing them to, to go after that greatness that we know they can achieve.
Well, another cool thing we saw on stage is when he was with you, Jet, breaking down plays. Like, I really liked how he pointed out, like, maybe it wouldn't be what I have done, but I can see why they did this. And as long as you can see why your team does something, if you think it is like the quote unquote wrong thing to do or like not the correct thing to do, that's a lot easier to talk to them about it in a holistic way, being like, hey, I see why you guys did this. Like, it didn't pay off. You could do it again in this situation, or we could try this. That's actually also what really impressed me when he was going in and breaking down plays for us.
It's so easy to see with omniscient information something go wrong and then, pick it apart for being the incorrect choice. but very much understanding why a decision made is important. Let's take a look at the standings. We're not halfway through. We're through the first round robin of the split. 8-1, Evil Geniuses up atop the table. 2-game separation now they've built for themselves at the end of that first round robin above 100 Thieves and Team Liquid Honda. But it's a tight race for the top 3 as CLG and FlyQuest right on their heels. Before we get to the bottom half of the standings, Cloud9, Golden Guardians, TSM, Dignitas, and Immortals Progressive, who picked up that second win last week and have now put themselves in some jockeying position on the back half of the split.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I see is literally just the middle area between CLG
Call it what
and
it's supposed to be
Guardians.
called.
The soup.
Thank you.
Look, I didn't want to say it, but it has to be
Angry
said.
Marks, he just runs in from back.
actually,
Starts charging in there.
wielding a bat.
That's a big soup. That's a big bowl of
Coming
soup.
for your knees. Watch out, Red.
No. Yeah, it's pretty large, and so like that gives confidence for a lot of teams like Cloud9 and Golden Guardians that want to push for the top, and also for C9 fans that look at this is like, we know where we're going. We're gonna be up in the top 4, top 5, but
Do they know that? Actually, don't answer that yet. We're going to talk about that
We'll
later.
talk about
We're
that.
going to talk about that a bit
That
later,
is
whether
true.
or not we know if Cloud9 is actually going to climb up those standings. Let's take a look at the schedule, how we kick things off here in the second round robin. It's that first place team in Evil Geniuses up against the CLG squad at 5-4. Before we get to Immortals Progressive against Team Liquid Honda, TSM 100 Thieves, third matchup of the day, Dignitas Cloud9, and then we close things out with FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians. I'm particularly excited about that first matchup of the day.
Yeah.
Number one, because really, how dominant can EG be over the course of the split is question number one. Question number two, Jat, CLG's patch, like you said. I'm excited to see if
Palafox
this
patch.
CLG can really test our number one team.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. They were the only team to defeat Evil Geniuses in the first round robin. It was a Elder Dragon inspired affair. Very crazy game.
Yeah.
That's actually how close CLG was to being undefeated, but CLG will want to start the second half as hot as they started the first half, because remember, they jumped out to a 4-1 record before finishing 5-4.
We will have a whole 10 minutes to talk about that matchup in just a bit. The only other one I kind of wanted to call out in its immediacy is Immortals Progressive having to go up against Team Liquid to kick off their second round robin. It's like, boom, hey, good job, guys.
Right,
You ended
well-
first round robin on a high note with that win. Here's some tough ass competition for you to kick off the week 5. But if they can get it done, I think seeing that smile that we saw on Power of Evil's face from that win, start off the second round robin with another, I think all of a sudden it could be a very different looking season for Immortals. But I do think a lot hinges on this game here today, just from a morale standpoint.
100%. And I mean, I think just the change in vibes from being able to take a win and also recognizing that they should have came out of that week 2-0 with how well the first game was. They recognized it, they saw it, and I think that even if it is a loss, if they have a really competitive game and shown that they are improving, then they should feel happy about it. But clearly they want the win. So like, clearly they want the dub. And so I'm gonna be looking into that one. The other one for me too is also TSM versus Get In There.
There it is.
I had to figure out where it was.
Yeah. I actually didn't even know the frog was in front
It's
of
like
me.
I feel like it's Jat's first day on camera. He's like trying to get into all the shots. Like, oh, is that what that camera does? Okay, great, good to know.
Yes.
We put it out to you, the audience, throughout the week to say, hey, with the first round robin done, give us some of your hot, spicy takes. Andrew Barton came in with this one. Inspired will win MVP. Multiple
it's not
responses
ice
coming
cold.
in, but I think Daniel Perez kind of nailed this one. Not sure how hot a take this is ultimately when the guys got 2 out of 4 MasterCard Player of the Week.
Yes, and I respect the hustle because Andrew Barton is the GM of Evil Geniuses. My player should win most valuable.
Yep.
The guy that I brought in the offseason. And now we're talking about it, so well done.
So, I mean, I guess.
But never again. You're not allowed to vote for your own player on the ballot. I do agree, though, he would be probably the top candidate after 9 games, but a lot can change in the second 9 games, as we've seen in basically every split in LCS history.
Yes.
I think that's why it's a cold take and not an ice cold take, because it's it's not a lock. We're still only past first round robin, but I think it's not at all difficult to say that Inspired is the MVP frontrunner right now.
I think the only other, well, it's not the only other one, but I know that for sure, if Team Liquid start getting a string of games where they can challenge for for the top, then you would say, Bjergsen, Santorin, those two players, Core JJ. I'm just adding more players. But Team Liquid, basically.
I agree with you because I think there's just really a sour taste in our mouth right now for TL's record and performance to have achieved that record, again, against what we expect that roster of 5 players to do. So we're really going to hammer them in those 3 losses, I think, when it comes to individual performance, but still have a whole rest of the split to go to decide all of that. From there, I want to talk, though, about some Worlds implications.
Okay.
Soccer Scout says, there is a 1 in 3 chance that besides EG, the top 3 teams, C9, 100 Thieves, and TL, you're forgetting FlyQuest in there, but that's fine, will all miss Worlds. Now, not quite how math works when applied to the real world, but I understand the point here. For me, what was interesting about this is the implication, again, of the shakeup that the LCS has experienced to think that teams like Cloud9, 100 Thieves, TL, all realistically have chances to not make Worlds.
Absolutely. Every org that he listed there are going to be the orgs that are all in. You look at what TL did in the offseason, you look how 100 Thieves kept everything together for another year, and you look at how C9 blew up a team because they finished 4th, thinking 4th is not good enough, we must finish 3rd, brought back Jensen as well as moving Sven to support. So it's absolutely a top of mind for all these guys, and it's going to be an incredibly tight race between 4th and 3rd.
Well, and I wasn't on this waiting room, but you guys did lists, right? Of who you thought was going to be left out, right?
Yeah.
So for which one of you was it? It was 100 T and C9 that you guys left out,
I believe I left
right?
out 100 T,
I left 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves was the team that was consistently left out of the top 3 list.
So it was me that agreed with Mark, and mine was that I was worried that C9 wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
The thing I find very interesting about this tweet is that it goes very far. It does go to the extreme in suggesting that all 3 of those teams would miss Worlds, right? So I guess the implication is that teams like FlyQuest, CLG, for example, are kind of the 2 obvious ones.
That's
right. I think no, I'm not. Well, and that's why I debate the 1 in 3 chance. It's not a 30. It's not a really 33% chance that happens.
No.
1 in 3. There are scenarios, but it's not going to happen, right?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the next.
Oh, wow.
I want to curtail this though into that next this next tweet because George says or Jorge, either or. Fly is looking like the clear second seed. They're always going in with a game plan, dismantle most teams with their objective control, map movement, and team fighting. The loss to TSM was them being a nice organization given the last few win. Okay, so we're trying to shrug off that loss. But I do think it's important to, again, talk about a FlyQuest team that's looking good and remember the history of FlyQuest in actually their ability to finish pretty high in the LCS.
I disagree with the last part. But,
I think we all disagree with that.
But in terms of and I also don't know if they're a 2nd seed, but I do think that when you look at them, and especially comparing their rise in spring to their stronger performances in summer, I do think there's a visible improvement in the objective control and their map movement, which is something that I was pretty critical of them in spring.
Consistency is going to be a big point for them.
Yes.
2nd seed of what? What is he saying? If he's saying 2nd seed from it's
for
not
Worlds.
That's why.
That's what I read that as.
Exactly. That's why.
I guess you could read that as 2nd seed for playoffs, meaning they'll finish regular season.
Which I also disagree with.
But and those are very different arguments, right? Where it's I actually think it's more likely that Fly would be the 2nd seed to Worlds than the 2nd seed out of the regular season. More likely. I'm not saying it will happen.
Okay.
Of those 2 scenarios, I think it'd be more likely that with more time, FlyQuest would continue to get better and be able to win, make it to a finals, versus, given their current record, muscle their way to the top of the standings.
So the big surprise for me when it comes to FlyQuest is their early laning phase is a positive right now.
Yeah.
And they've always been a pretty decent team fighting team, so that's something to work towards. The only thing that will be tough for them once teams like C9 and 100 Thieves really get their ducks in a row is just individual level play in laning phase. So if they can consistently hit that, then they're a real challenge.
Sweet. I'm extending us just a little bit before we roll the show open because I think this last one is very, very important. Ashton C. Johnson says, hot take, we need more bets so that Mark Z can be put more costumes and Raz can eat more spicy food.
I don't like
so
that.
my question is, where are the
go.
bets? What are the bets? What can we bet on?
We already have a bet.
Well,
and it's more spicy food.
We have one bet.
Jack's
with side bets, prop bets, you know? Okay, look, all I'm saying
I'll
is,
do one if you're put your own skin in the game.
First of all, you know that I do every punishment for every bet regardless, and I'm not even a part of the bets.
I don't remember.
But sure, you want me to put something on the line? Great. Let's make a bet. What do you want to bet on?
You need something to bet on. By the end of the day, we'll have
something to
bet
disagree
on.
I tell you what. We're going to think about what we should bound. We'll come up with something by the end of the day.
That guy who said if all 3 of the teams missed Worlds.
Oh, God.
Do you want to bet on that?
But I don't think either of us are going to take. Okay. We're going to think about this. By the end of the day, Jat and I will have a bet.
Okay.
Hold us to that. For now, that's the end of Waiting Room. We're going to roll the show up and kick off week 5.
Save me from the habaneros.
It's time for Instinct to go for broke. Drops. One so far. I'm going to burn the zone. He's packaged it pretty well right now. Disengaged though and adapt onto the support, but he yoinks back. Well done. No way. Number 4. Give it to him. You better not steal this. The kill comes through.
I think it's definitely a great confidence boost, especially for the new guys, right? Because this is like, what, their second LCS game?
TSM's new roster finds their first win.
So hopefully, you know, we can continue winning for their fans, for ourselves.
I think going up against jojopyun is always pretty fun because he's just aggressive.
Get vision, he sees the sweeper. Is it going to be the play? Going in, Palafox gets deleted.
I mean, I feel like people talk about Abadog's laning being bad or something, but I feel like his laning is better than most of the mids in the league. Like he actually tries to do something, you know?
Oh, beautiful by Abadagan. Really well done.
jojopyun, you have a cute smile, so at least he let me have the win on the Rift.
I mean, I don't know how to take that. There's nothing to say, honestly. He's the one that has to prove himself. I'm just chilling right now. He better show up.
Hello, welcome back to the LCS. I had a game number 1 of the day. It's Evil Geniuses versus Counter Logic Gaming. As promised, we're back to preview that game.
Yeah.
It's the number 1 seed at 8-1 against a 5-4 CLG. And so, Jat, I'm going to come back to you on EG and the dominance that they've displayed so far, and basically ask the question that we began to talk about, which is really just like, how dominant can this team be by the end of the split?
You know what? So I was looking at just overall league this past week, and current active win streaks in the LCS, EG's at 4 with that 1 loss they had to CLG. No one else has an active win streak longer than 1 game.
Seriously?
Yeah, so no one 2-0'd last week other than EG. But we want to play a game, and like, I'm wondering if this is the thing that you and I bet on.
Oh, I like this.
Right?
Okay, yeah, all right. Let's go through it.
Who will beat Evil Geniuses?
Okay, I'm ready.
But we need to define the bet, because it's like, if you circle, like, let's theoretically, I'm going to clear this later, if I were to circle TL, if they lose to any team before that, this would be wrong.
Oh, interesting.
My
Or
God.
because we're trying to pick who the first team they lose to is.
Oh, okay. So it's just pick
It's
the
how
first
long
team.
is their win streak going to last,
Gotcha.
right?
I like this a lot.
Okay.
So first, let's go through.
because-
Make your bet. Or make your choice.
And if I pick something, you can't pick it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I'll
so
go
playing
last.
the percentages, it's this one.
Damn it.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
Because there's decent chance it happens. So even if
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that leads to another
Okay.
team, that's
So
right
can I
off the
go
bat.
next? Because
Yeah.
now Jat and I have a bet.
I'm
And
down
I know
for
we
that.
Go for
intended.
it.
We're kind of going out of order here, and
Do
I
it.
wasn't even really supposed to be a part of this.
Oh, the cursed handwriting.
And
My
I
pack just
love
fell off my
100
belt
thieves.
again.
pack.
Yeah.
I'm a disaster. So I'm just gonna hold
Okay,
my
and I
pack.
should explain
Tuck it in
explain
your
why. Like,
pocket.
Oh
I
yeah,
think-
please explain.
I think 100 Thieves is a lazy team.
Oh my goodness.
But they will be motivated to play against EG because they're like, why is everyone giving EG so much credit? We're good too. So they're really going to be prepped well for that game.
Okay. So Jat's going 100 Thieves 6-3. There's a lot of great reasons. Since we're now betting, and that bet is entirely based on who's going to beat EG first.
Yeah.
I have no choice.
You have to go before that.
To go ahead of him. I mean, strategically, it just feels like the best option. But luckily for me, as you brought up earlier, this is the only team to have already done it.
True.
And it's a patch that's built for CLG. So what I'm relying on is that they've done the work on the patch. They're going to come in with some like the strong Taliyah pick and really utilize the strength of the patch for their team. So hold on. Here, I'll
Get
just
in
do
there. Let's
this.
see how your pen
Let's see. Why don't you use the arrow keys, Dash?
I hate you so much for that.
Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah. Sorry, Emily. I didn't.
So,
I just passed it to.
It's best of ones.
Here it is.
I literally, when I was looking at this, did eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and it landed on FlyQuest.
FlyQuest.
Really?
So there we go.
Is this all your picks?
I can't. I was thinking about it, but I had another one.
Screwed. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Emily
God.
comes in and ruins us all with her penmanship. Thanks.
There you go,
Do it
Raz.
the fattest marker of all time.
Wait, wait, okay, as Raz makes his way over, Emily, why is it, I know you eeny, meeny, miny mode, but what would be the reason why
my thing
FLICKR
is, like, if this game plays out, I'll give an analytical reason, too. I really did do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, though.
Raz is playing a different game. Tic-tac-toe. This is not tic-tac-toe, Raz.
Are you just going to cross everyone off? They're not losing again?
Yeah.
I think if it happens, it'll be the rematch.
Fair enough.
So you think there's no way they'll, like, lose to a team without a winning record? You
I think it'll be
all
way
of them
too
are like
difficult.
free wins. They're too
The
good.
only thing I would see was a big
Raz,
surprise.
sit back
would
down.
be
You're showing your
C9.
entire backside.
Fine,
to the
fine.
audience. Come on, show some camera awareness. Be like Jad earlier. Find the camera.
Are you like crab walking back and forth?
Jesus, ridiculous. So I'm so sorry. I actually cut Emily off in the middle of her explanation as to why she thinks FlyQuest would be maybe the team to do it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it is a single games, right? So like, I mean, they're kind of coin flippy anyway. But if FlyQuest gets a really good draft, if they are able to get off like some really strong team fights with like a Twitch combo or a hyper carry for Johnson, I can see it happening if it goes to late game team fighting.
Fair enough. And then Raz, so again, Jat's already pushed you a little bit on the TL, but
I think you guys are crazy because the safest bet is just to hope that they lose. I mean, that they beat these teams. Like specifically, I think for sure they'll beat CLG. 100 Thieves was the so I guess I already leaked my predictions. So like
you could have predicted like a 9-0 as well.
Yeah.
That is true.
That counts.
So and then I think the next time they go up against Team Liquid had a pretty sizable advantage last time they faced them, and then ended up losing because of like pretty small team fight mistakes, and also they didn't scale well in their composition. And I think they'll already have lessons from that. And it's much later on in the season. Week 7, Week 8, both teams will probably be at their peak at that period. So I think that's the highest likelihood. I actually think that's going to happen.
okay. So now we have to put something on this bet.
Okay.
And iron out exactly how it works.
Are the homegrown peppers ready?
We were told that one of our audio guys has been home growing some Carolina Reapers.
Yeah.
That he said some chocolate Carolina Reapers that are apparently. I think we were told that they're ready to go. So one, we can go that way.
They're ready.
Although we've done the spice payoff a lot, and I think that that's already kind of the payoff for your guys' other bet. Here's my other thought, off the top of my head.
Okay.
Whoever loses, right, has to do the entirety of the game 1 pregame standing in an ice bath.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
10 minutes, like 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's like a reasonably long ice bath.
Yeah.
We just fill up a trash can with water and ice. You just stand in
Yeah,
it
that sounds great.
and just be freezing.
No, that's great.
Yeah, okay, boom.
Are you part of the cold
therapeutic.
shower gang?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. Yeah, we're
I
good.
want to do this.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. So basically, if CLG wins, then Jad will have to do it. If 100 Thieves wins, I'll have to do it. Simple as that.
Perfect.
If neither of those teams win, do we just call the bet off, or do we
I
both
think so.
have to do it?
I think one of us has to be right.
One of us has to be right. Okay,
Yeah.
there you have it.
I
It's
like-
been decided.
I love the idea of both of you guys having an ice bath. And just putting that out there.
Flanking either end, just like freezing. Like you two are having fun. Who knows?
Yep.
We'll work it out. But that sounds like fun. Now let's talk about the last time that these teams actually faced off, because we mentioned that this is the only team to have taken down Evil Geniuses.
Yeah.
But I think by most people's accounts, I don't want to apply the word fluke to it. That's not the right word. But I think because of the dominance that EG has shown, a lot of people are still kind of saying that shouldn't have happened, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me, it was an upset still, regardless of how you felt about, I think, CLG's strengths. I think when you look at the strengths of CLG when they were doing well, which is what helped them win, was drafting really good compositions for their players. Like we said, this patch is really good for them, Palafox specifically. And then obviously Dhokla being on carries and being able to soak up pressure, which we've also seen from multiple games.
And that's the thing. I think that CLG are just really good mechanical players, and specifically Dhokla. Dhokla last week was balling. I mean, he lost his game on his birthday. That sucked. But I thought his Fiora was incredible, and I think if we're just talking about what makes this team take wins versus teams above them, and in this case it's Evil Geniuses, is because they are more than willing to take fights if they see a good angle, and they will play it at a high level. The only issue is the consistency of it, and they're too willing to take fights. So if they are, not basically taking into account a TP disadvantage or something like that, they'll take a fight, lose off of it. That's the one concern that I have.
I think it's also the execution, right? Because when we had Dhokla on desk last week, he was just you know what? I don't disagree with any of those fights, but we did not press our buttons well enough to win them, where their timing was just off, right? So I think that's something that internally they're also looking at, because they do feel like with a lot of these compositions, the impetus is on them to start the fights, and it's just a matter of executing them correctly.
What, if anything, on the EG side, one, could have been learned from that game? And then two, separate from that point, just where do we feel like EG is as a team now that makes them a different beast to overcome than what CLG had to overcome the first time?
I mean, again, I think if you play that CLG game over and over again, EG is just so confident in their ability to win team fights. The thing that I like most about EG is how, I guess, like, consistently they play in terms of style. So the champions change, but the roles of the players don't necessarily change, right? Like, JoJo is so much of a facilitator, which is why I think Inspired has also been so successful. Like, the most active teams have mid and jungles that can really take over the map. Impact is incredibly solid. I think he's been the best team fighter in the LCS for like 7 years, right? And then Danny is the best team fighting AD carry. So they're just so consistently able to get control of the map through mid jungle. And then Vulcan pairs up with that like trio that roam around. And then they have the best frontline player and the best backline damage. So it's just so hard to beat them as long as they don't try anything crazy outside the box.
Just a quick note to those of you at home. We have a small issue on stage. As you can see here, Tournament Realm is causing us some problems, so they're just swapping to a different Tournament Realm. Takes a few moments for the players to hop off of the current one and load into the other. I'm being told roughly 2 minutes. Hopefully that will be the case, but we'll keep you updated on the time as we get closer. I do want to talk predictions, Raz. I know that you already tipped your cap earlier with yours, and I guess now have with mine in picking CLG. CLG is a must-win because I got to beat Jat. And so, Emily, I'll go to you next since we kind of already have multiple revealed.
All right, I think Evil Geniuses are going to get their revenge on CLG.
There it is.
I think one thing that we haven't pointed out with EG as well that kind of piggybacks off of something Jat said in terms of the champions change, but they play the same way, is their drafts have also been incredibly smart. Either into what their opponents are picking or making sure that they just have a really good amount of champions. They're using the 4-5 pick with jungle really well. They're the team, I think, that has used that the best if you are leaving that pick off for 4-5, especially on red side. So I think that's been really interesting. I've been really impressed with their drafting, and I think EG takes it.
We already know Raz's prediction, but I just want to illuminate everybody to the fact that Raz has the best prediction picture, I think.
He definitely does.
In the back. His finger guns, his,
Mine is very scuffed. It's unlucky.
Pretty good.
I'll choose a better one.
So, Jat, I mean, I guess I already know your answer, too, since you went for 100 Thieves, right?
I mean, eventually, Evil Genius is definitely favored to win this game.
Yeah.
They are not gonna let CLG 2-0 them.
That would be hilarious.
In Summer Split.
Mostly because JoJo was visibly upset at the idea.
Yeah, he's like, I can't believe CLG
we could have been 9-0.
Yeah.
And then this happened.
Oh, Lordy. All right, predictions are in. I'm being told we can head out to the arena and kick off week number 5. CLG have a little lesson in lingo, though, to share as we do. Take a look.
Yo, bro, yo. Is it good? Is it good? I'm ready, bro. I'm f***ing down, bro. Oh, thanks, bro.
I'm all aboard the Luger hype train here for CLG.
What is a Lugerism? Lugerism is a Luger-specific type speech pattern.
I'm dying to mid-gank, guys. You're dying? No, you're killing, bro.
It's very unique to him and who he is and how he communicates with other people.
I feel like I'm kind of like a friendly guy, so like we kind of like make kind of funny stuff in the game. So for sure he helped a lot.
Y'all are smurfing, bros.
You have 2, bro?
Yeah, you're good, bro. You're good, bro. Why are you whispering, bro?
My headset is so quiet today, bro.
Yeah, I think our communication has definitely leveled up since we started adopting Lugerisms as a team. Really been able to take our game to the next level.
It's GG, bro. Yo, you f***ed me up, bro! Let's go, bro! Let's f***ing go, bro! Oh, man. Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
Let's go, bro! Bro! We got EG and CLG coming up. We're kicking off this second half of the round robin with a banger, boys.
Yeah.
Second round robin, second half of the, you know what I mean?
Second round robin work, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
All the above.
You're just circling all of the above answer.
You can say anything on this test. We don't fail anyone here.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Everybody gets to pass, but only one team gets to win here today. A lot of people are excited about this one. CLG, of course, taking that one win away from Evil Geniuses that, as the desk said, JoJo was obviously a little salty about, and EG want to get that revenge.
I think it's really important, too, for them because they're currently on that trajectory to be one of the most dominant teams of a regular season we've seen.
Yeah.
Most of those teams have gone 17-1, for example, the Immortals of old, and they're on track to kind of keep that pace up. It's unfortunate that they had that one robbed from them early in the split, but otherwise, they have been crushing the LCS so far.
Absolutely, and I think it would also be a big confidence boost for CLG, who has dropped a couple games. Did have a really hot start, has kind of come down to earth a little bit, but if you can get a big win here over EG, that would mean a lot. EG, though, giving respect over to the fact that CLG was one of the teams that did play some of those enchanters. Seraphine ban here early, I think, is really smart.
Yeah, taking away some of the things that CLG has found success on. They've kept up the interesting drafts, but they haven't quite landed as much as they did those first couple weekends. The Vi last week, cute idea, didn't actually work well into the Poppy and Silas and all those other champions.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that one, but let's see how the bans are going to finish out here. We got Kalista, Seraphine, Silas banned out by EG. It's Gangplank and Zeri banned out from CLG with one more to go. They're taking their time thinking about this one, and it'll be Ezreal off the table here. So plenty of marksman bans in the first half.
I can't really blame him banning out the Ezreal against Danny. This guy has been unstoppable on the champion. I saw a stat that he's averaging over 1,000 DPM on Ezreal this split. It's just ridiculous.
And to be fair, Ezreal is a DPM monster in the sense that you just
like 600 is usually really good.
Yeah, he doinks away with Qs all the time. And I was watching one of the team fights. It was a joke to me, like, okay, you're not only doing a ton of damage, but he's actually carrying all the kills as well. His team is dying around him, and he's like, no, I got this one, guys. So you got to give some respect to Danny on that champ.
Danny Senna is also one of his best champions, so not something we've been seeing as much of, but he actually got a penta on it last year. They started getting it banned out against them, non-stop, in spring. After having played it a little bit early on. So it could be Senna TK. We are actually seeing a lot more of different Senna pairings. We've seen, some of the kind of traditional pairings like Senna TK are still the most popular, but even Lee Sin, Yasuo, those are both relatively popular in Champions Queue as pairings with it. You can do things like Cho'Gath. I've seen Mundo. I've seen, AP mages. Like, there's all kinds of different options. So I'm curious to see if EG are actually going to mix that up.
They've also changed up how you play the Senna. There's been more farming Senna when you're playing things with the TK, because it's not like he does a ton with the gold anyways, and you just would rather just keep slamming that into the Senna, even though it's not making the most out of her passives.
Well, in response to the Senna, CLG going to grab themselves Taliyah and Yone, locking that one in nice and early.
And this could be a Yone top for Dhokla. I believe he already played it once so far this split. We have seen Taliyah goes both mid and jungle, so it's possible that is, either or type of situation here. It is going to be the TK, so getting that common pairing. I'm expecting to be fasting Senna, but we'll actually find out. Gnar as the answer. Again, there is potential to flex things around, right? Like, this could be Yone going mid, Taliyah going jungle, and theoretically CLG could try to flex in some sort of a counter pick here, but I am assuming it's probably going to be Yone top.
Well, we still have a little bit of time left before we see what CLG locks in. They know what the enemy top lane is going to be. They know what the enemy bottom lane is going to be. None of these EG champions really have a whole lot of flex potential here.
Okay.
And it looks like the Gwen locked in here for CLG is going to be that last pick before the next round of bans roll through.
This is really interesting because Palafox had played the Taliyah a lot. You had seen Dhokla on the Yone quite a bit, and so there was this playstyle where they want to go top and support him. He played the Fiora last week in that bye game and did not get much help. He kind of got permacamped by his team, and so yeah, I think this is them saying, like, we're going to send more resources up there to support you, but still having a lot of flexibility if they do end up wanting to decide which ones they play into the Gnar.
And as we're into the second part of the draft here, you can see CLG going to look towards that mid lane, look at Jojo, ban away the LeBlanc a little bit here. They know that they can either target mid laners or junglers on the side of EG. The roles are definitely not lined up in this first half of the draft. I feel like a lot of times you're going to see the exact same roles picked, or at least, 2 out of 3 of them. But this time around, things were a little wild.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, EG going with their full bot lane, whereas CLG going with top side of the map. You're expecting EG to just double ban towards bot. And whether it's going to be supports or ADs, that's up to them. Yuumi getting taken away is kind of trying to potentially remove some of those dangerous pairings. Obviously, a lot of really good scaling. People do like Yuumi kind of as an answer as well. To send a TK is something that can help to sustain through the lane. Farm pretty easily off the TK for spell thief stacks too.
Plus, with these champions like Yone and like Gwen, where if they get ahead, they just take over the game. Their main character status, right? Their 1v9 just cutting through you. Yuumi really turns that into a situation that goes from oppressive to just plain unfair. So I like the ban away here from Evil Geniuses. Ahri's going to be the second ban from CLG, committing both of the bans in this last half towards Jojo, towards that mid lane. What's the response here going to be for EG? One more to go. Will it be another support, or do they want to look at that marksman role even more heavily? No, Renata Glass banned out.
I like that choice. I mean, there's some aggressive champions already taken away, like the Kalista, so the Renata-Kalista combo was kind of already broken apart. There's so many bot lane-centric bans as well, given the Yuumi, the Zeri, and Ezreal in the first phase. I think that they were just looking for other things to pinch, and why not Renata, one of the strongest supports in the current meta. But CLG has shown a lot of diversity in terms of things that they've picked in the past. They played the Sivir even before the rework that just recently happened, so like they're no strangers to finding interesting picks.
Okay, so it's going to be last pick AD for CLG. Yeah. So, makes you wonder if they have anything a little bit spicy that is somewhat conditional, to come out as the last pick here. Of course, it doesn't particularly matter because they do see the full enemy bot lane, so you can pick your support here, drafting some engage for themselves. I think Swain would actually be pretty good here from Jojo. It's something that he's already shown and is really strong as counter engage. What CLG is showing is very much hard engage. Gwen, Yone, Rakan, all these things that want to dive in. Poppy is an incredible answer. I think it's probably the strongest jungler in the game right now with how many dash champions there are. And you're looking over on that other side, the last 3 picks that CLG have gone with are all going to be shut down pretty heavily by the Poppy. And if you go Swain, as I said, they're drafting heavy towards dive. Yeah, I think EG has like a monster draft advantage pretty much regardless of what the 5th pick is here, with Poppy Swain coming through potentially. Akali, okay, so much more aggressive as the answer.
I'm surprised they did that because I really liked your idea of the Swain, given how much, not only is that the current champions, but CLG's playstyle is a kind of wombo-oriented team comp that usually they want to press R and all go in, and Poppy's a huge block for that. Swain loves playing into that kind of stuff, so a little surprised to see the Akali instead, but that's just Jojo a little bit, being like, Swain, I'm sure they talked about it, but he wants to beat people in lane, and that's not necessarily Swain's playstyle, especially if you're going the Imperial Mandate build. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Swain is not the most dominant of laners. It's pretty easy for Yone to just go resolve secondary, D-shield, and kind of just heal through that. Yeah. We'll see what he can get done here on the Akali, though. Much more of an aggressive option, does give some threat in towards that Aphelios. If everyone is diving on towards the Senna and towards kind of the back line, well, then theoretically, the Akali is going to be able to put that threat on some of these squishy champions like Contractz on the Taliyah, like Luger on the Aphelios. So those are champions that are going to have to really pay a lot of respect to the fact that this burst is coming through. And with Senna Ultimate, you do really enable those divers. Adding in extra damage, the shielding as well is going to be there.
Yeah, just being able to combine both the offensive and defensive elements of that. If Jojo gets ahead, I mean, you already said Aphelios and Taliyah are going to have to be scared, but there's no true tank on CLG at all, right? Like, you've got 2 fighters in your solo lanes. You've got an engaged support that is not tanky. So if Jojo gets ahead, it's going to be very scary for anybody on the other side.
Definitely going to be scary. They do have the backup plan of Luger on the Aphelios. He can be a monster team fighter, so they do have all those go-in options, but maybe they can play back towards him if the initial engage doesn't go quite so well.
Well, here we go. It's about time to get into it. We've got the EG potential to shut down the dashes, have the Akali pop off, or can CLG find the answer and take him down again? Let's do it. Kicking off the second round robin. job in a rematch between Evil Geniuses and CLG. That one loss in Evil Geniuses' record was to this very team earlier.
Man, I'm loving the banter and all that as well. Palafox comes in. I'm 100% win rate, Yone. Jojo saying, oh, I'm shaking. Is that Palafaker? I just love the banter back and forth between two teams.
All right. Where's the action going to be here, boys? Where should we be paying attention to early on in the game? What are we expecting from these jungle paths?
I think I'm most excited about the mid lane matchup. I assume that's where some of the attention will go, because when you have these kinds of assassin-y melee champions, when things start going bad, it's hard to recover the lane. Sometimes there's a little bit of range potential for like an Akali to just kind of spam out Qs and whatnot. But if you can start getting control of mid as well, that allows you to start roaming to those side lanes.
Yeah, my honest opinion is I think it's FLICKR. I don't think that there's
Boring.
incredible gank assist in these lanes. If someone really overextends, or if you can do like a drive-by through mid, like 3-camp walk through mid, that type of play, then there's maybe some sort of opportunity. But because there's no like point-and-click lockdown for Contractz, I think he's really just looking to get his farm. Inspired, I think, is more looking to kind of answer the plays rather than start them up himself.
And it wasn't just you who thinks Poppy's best jungler on the patch. Owner had an interview where he was saying that he thinks Poppy's best jungler on the patch, so you're not alone in thinking that. But Taliyah should be able to a little bit of a pace.
Man, we got a violent
He's going Raptors.
here. Yeah.
This is actually kind of cool. So Jojo fights very heavily mid. They try to push this up here. They have Vulcan and Danny, who obviously were actually tracking at that blue buff. And being able to see where the Taliyah was starting. So Inspired does his own Raptors, goes up to enemy Raptors. I'll be interested to see where he actually goes from here. Will it be Contractz actually trying to cross map, or just taking the L and going down one camp? Because Inspired is heading over to his Gromp.
I like it. It's very creative from Evil Geniuses, just getting that little bit of a bonus, right? Take away the EXP, take away the gold. Yeah, it's nothing that's going to win the entire game on its own, but building these small advantages for free, there was no response here from Contractz or CLG.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just smart. And Poppy takes those Raptor camps very, very easily with a Q AoE, is able to knock that down very quickly. There's also the potential of, hey, if Palafox is trading too aggressively, maybe you get a little bit of chip damage there too.
And I really like the idea just against CLG. Contractz has been the engine for CLG in a lot of the early games. Even in the games that they lose, they often can jump out to early leads off of his kind of jungle pressure and invades.
We got a Ghost coming out. Impact tries to flash away from it, but Ghost is very powerful in these extended situations, but he doesn't get the snip.
Just not as much of a refund on the E there. I'm pretty sure couldn't actually get the chase down. Able to get out. Does lose the flash though, and that is when you're talking about those ganks, where you can go now. Yeah. That being down is huge.
And his wave is absolutely destroyed. Like his wave top lane is so messed up. It's actually a hard freeze, if Dhokla wants to hold it. And Taliyah is in the area, right? So that wave is awful. You have to TP back in to fix it. Dhokla will let it crash because he's low enough on health, and I don't think they know where Inspired is. So it doesn't end up being that big of a deal, but still, Dhokla farms up this wave, gets a better base with more gold, then can TP back, and he should be ahead in the lane.
Well, a few of these minions going not the way that he would like them to go. A couple of those get eaten by the tower, but it is still a nice lead for the CLG top laner up there. Neither one of our junglers finding their way into a lane just yet. You can see that top side Scuttle Crab was secured for the side of Evil Geniuses, while Contractz has made his way onto the bottom side Scuttle, as the 2v2 in bottom lane isn't turning into a whole lot right now. There's no reason for anybody to really get invested in that one. Senna TK can stay pretty safe and just do what they gotta do.
It's the most bedge matchup in bot lane, probably, where there's just constant Q farming. You get to heal up if you ever take a bad trade. The gray health plus the Senna Q, all that just means that it's very hard to assert yourself. And that's why you often see sometimes scaling matchups picked into it, like the Aphelios, because you are also not going to be under too much threat. Yes, the Tahm Kench can W in, Senna can land the root and whatnot, but if the jungler's not there, it's usually not too much of a threat.
Yeah. So, we do end up getting to see Contractz steal back the enemy Raptor camp, so the jungle is equalized. But another important thing about the start that Inspired did, he's going to have his buffs longer. And they're also going to have a longer respawn timer compared to Contractz doing the traditional clear. So once Contract's buff runs out, Inspired, only just now picking up his red, will have a little bit more time to try to make some sort of a move with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Palafox obviously had mid-prio there. jojopyun did base. They're utilizing that to help take those Raptors. Palafox has just straight up missed a lot of farm, though, to be honest with you. He was actually winning out in a lot of these trades. Sure, Inspired did cross through mid, so there's a little bit of something to be said for that. But, it's just straight up missing a lot of farm, but now getting some good damage down.
Okay.
Jojo ducking into the smoke to prevent things from going any worse here. Nice stats for Palafox on the right side of your screen there. 7.5 KDA over 4 games that he has won all of on this champion.
As he said, he wasn't lying in
Undefeated.
chat. Undefeated.
Okay, normally when I see somebody say undefeated on something, they're being facetious and just trolling, and it's like, oh, I've won one game on this champion.
Scrims or like Champions Queue or something. It's actually stage games.
Yeah, no, that's the numbers are impressive on that one, so we'll have to see if he can live up to it. As you already said, though, Isaac, the farm, not exactly a great story for him in mid lane right now. He will have some extra to pick up here, but even if he does get all of it, he'll still be down about 2 waves.
Well, mid and top are kind of like the inverse situations, right? You know, Impact and Palafox are kind of in similar situations here with their buys. Is Impact in trouble again?
Impact, he'll stay alive on that. There's no cooldown on the Ghost ready to go just yet. Remember that Ghost will be available much sooner than Flash, but unfortunately for Dhokla, not quite ready in time to continue the chase on that one. Getting some of those honey fruits to heal up just a little bit.
Man. It feels bad when you chunk someone down in top lane and then you know they're gonna get the fruits.
They
like,
come back at half health, like, wait, what? I beat you. Come on. I also think on the Fox point, the CS is also not the kind of player he is. He's historically behind in farm because he prefers to work with his team to get his leads. And so that is something that is actually not that uncommon to see him down a little bit. This has a little bit more due to actual laning than like roaming around the map so far, but
ooh. Nicely done with the cancel. There is Impact. Oh, Dhokla back into the turret, and he's already down. Impact first blood.
Oh, Dhokla not respecting the Mega Gnar there. When you're playing against a Mega Gnar or when you're playing against a Gragas, these champions that have AoE actually, nice side step.
Oh, his feet are just so fancy, but it will not matter. 2v1, CLG, get him back.
But still, that's flash off Poome, ignite off Poome, flash off Contractz right after he's solo killed, and he's not even really gonna lose much. The wave doesn't even fully crash, so I think he's actually going to get the better end of the waves at the end of the day. So really great job by Impact. But yeah, Dhokla just not respecting the fact that Mega Gnar can pull you into the tower and kill the mini wave at the same time. That's the key thing here, is that you have to realize that this wave, you think you can walk up because you think this wave is actually protecting you, that it's not going to go on you, but he scoops it in. The wave gets one shot by the Mega Gnar, stuns him right in. The Shroud does not protect you from the tower. Impact waves goodbye. The solo kill, even though Dhokla was winning out, this time dies in the straight up 1v1. And then just great sidestep from Impact.
I mean, you heard the Desk talking about it. There's a reason Impact's considered the best North American top laner of all time. It's right there, able to find plays even.
You gotta be prepared for this. I feel like especially in a Gnar matchup, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but Gnar has got to be the most played top laner, just period. I feel like he's always relevant. He's always there. So whether or not he is, I don't know, but it feels like he is. Players should be aware of this, right? You should know what the general Gnar playbook is going to look like. So I am going to fault Dhokla a little bit for that one. Do want to applaud Impact as well, but you can see it's still Contractz topping the gold chart here, farming up on the Taliyah, making sure that he's able to be that threat and have some of that really scary damage potential once we get into the fights. The seismic shove can seriously just instigate somebody.
And I'm hoping that he can actually help his team find some more of these plays, make some around topside, because I do think that there's a bit of an advantage for EG when you get to the team fighting. When you talk about that front line that they're going to have with the Poppy, with a little bit more utility in the Tahm, Kench, and Senna, this is definitely a draft, and CLG tends to go for these, where they put a lot of pressure on themselves to win the early game, and not go in their favor quite yet. Also with the Rift Herald being snuck away right there by Inspired.
Okay. Poppy can take care of that one, or can she? Dhokla and Contractz showing up to make sure that this one doesn't go away for free. Shelly's going to get mad, turns right back towards Dhokla, who goes right back over the wall, but now Impact is ready to join up as he crashes the wave top lane. So CLG going to be losing some resources there, as Inspired will maintain the pull on the Herald. The patience does not get low enough to reset, so Inspired will be able to finish this one off, even though CLG did give him a little bit of trouble with it. EG can still collect that one without any actual fight, and we'll see where they decide to use that eyeball here later on, as Vulcan and Danny get the last couple of minions shoved up here in the mid lane. Farm still continues building for Jojo over Palafox, as Palafox jumps after him, finds a little bit of damage, but honestly nothing really even worth considering here.
Yeah, and EG just handled that really well. I mean, Inspired sees them coming over. He knows he doesn't need to force a fight because Impact has the push top, and his bot lane had the first move, right? So he just has to wait until the wave is crashing at the tower. CLG are losing minions up there. Dokla's going to have to respond. And CLG's bot lane was kind of cut out. So it was just smart, patient play, and they're just kind of eking out these advantages. Now, I mean, you look at both the solo lanes here. This is a pretty big CS advantage there. Down in bot lane, it's almost 25, excuse me, mid lane, but they're playing bot.
Yeah,
and up on the top side, it's 2.5 waves after it was Impact kind of getting pushed around, but he gets that solo kill. The wave positioning was good for him. Dhokla may look for an all-in.
Doesn't look like he's ready to commit to it there, as Impact is just able to dance around him here a little bit more. Down in bot lane, Contractz might see if he can go for something here. Can JoJo get baited into this? Palafox goes for the Q3, finds the knockup. Not gonna go for a Fate sealed after it. As long as Akali has Shroud, you can't really make plays on Akali unless you can just chain CC her 100-0. The champion is so adept at getting out of those situations. But Inspired's coming up, and Danny's coming up, and Vulcan's coming up, and everybody's ready to go. Dhokla just kind of walked away from it, though.
I'm a little surprised to see not more of an attempt to stop him from getting through there.
Yeah, he just kind of walked away.
Objective focus, that's what we like to see. Back onto the turret.
I love the reaction from the crowd, though. You see one person like, I've seen more. They zooms out a little bit. There's four people like, oh! Everyone's been there.
Well, hey, Dhokla gets away from it. I guess they needed to bring 5. They don't end up getting him. They do get a little bit of plate money up here. This turret almost down to those last 2 plates. It's just outside of the range where the Rift Herald would be able to take it down, so they did not deploy it up here.
I think they also, with the dragon spawning, and a little bit here, that they didn't want to get caught in the top side, stuck up there the whole time, and so they looked at that play, didn't commit to killing Dhokla, and then they said, all right, we got to start getting back down to actually start continuing our dragon stacking, because they did grab the first Cloud one.
And since they still have that Rift Herald, that can be used as a distraction. We know that dropping those eyes right when a Drake spawns is one of the most tried and true strategies for getting control and priority over that bottom side river. It's EG first into the pit. Palafox is hanging around here, but without any more movement from the rest of CLG, it doesn't look like they're really going to contest this one. So EG will get out to a 2-0 Drake lead. 12 minutes into the game, they're stacking nice and early.
Yeah, they're looking really good. They get the Herald, they get both Drakes. They obviously already had that first blood. Impact had the push, started moving down. Dhokla stayed top. Jojo's going in now.
Jojo nicely done there, using the Shuriken toss to chase Palafox as he reverts his position, but now we got a little bit of problems here in the river as well. Inspired trying to get away as Palafox disengages from the fight against Jojo, using his ulti as an escape mechanism. Contractz flashing away so the center route wasn't going to stun him in range of Vulcan, and that means that he'll live to see another day as well. So a couple of fights break out, but nobody actually pays the price.
It felt like CLG wanted to punish Inspired for finishing the dragon by himself, and EG realizing, okay, we're not going to contest it, we can go back to our lanes, and then they were like, okay, well, if you're not going to leave anyone with Inspired, we can try and kill him, but there was just not enough of a coordinated collapse, and you could see they didn't have enough CC to deal with it.
Ooh, Contractz riding the wave in, looking for Danny. He disengages off to the side as Vulcan can just walk it off. CLG trying to make the move, but not finding anything here either.
These little sidesteps from EG are just making the CLG engages look like they're nothing, right? It's up on the top side. Impact had the earlier sidestep that forced out the flash, the ignite from Poome, the flash from Contractz, and then here, Vulcan with another great sidestep. They don't have anything point and clicks. You don't have the guaranteed setup for the seismic shove, and that is one of the strongest parts of Taliyah, is when you're playing Taliyah and you have like Leona or Nautilus or whatever that just walks up and roots you in place. Now the charge is going to come out here. Tower should go down.
There it
is.
And
Dhokla's in trouble.
Slammed up into the wall. There's the wallop. There's the follow-up. Slam him into the wall again. He just got absolutely bullied. Second kill of the game for EG.
EG are just cruising through this game right now. Feels pretty uncontested. We were talking about why not take the Swain and whatnot. Well, because you can also just stomp the early game if you take these skill matchups. And so far, like you said, both soul lanes going in their favor. And Inspired with the winning soul lanes has been able to just kind of show up at objectives, get them for free, and make these high-impact plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Vulcan and Danny are chilling, right? They're getting their farm. Danny is stacking up. He has 44 souls now. Not a crazy amount, but still 2 ranged upgrades here. Working towards his first item. Vulcan's going to be closing in on his completed mythic as well. So EG looking really, really good. And these next couple of minutes, I think we are going to start seeing those mythic completions start coming through. And they're going to be happy to just continually show up at every dragon and look towards stacking up to soul.
So what's the play here for CLG then? They're down 2,000 gold at 14 minutes. Are you just playing the sit and wait till Aphelios has 3 items, then just run at him as 5, or what's the song?
I don't think so. I was saying I think team fighting does go in EG's favor just for some of the comp advantages, and you have the global mobility and with the Taliyah and whatnot. You're going to have basically 1-3-1 lane setups. You have to try and get some vision out to find out where Inspired is not, and then make sure you can get there first. There is some globals for EG, to be fair, as well, with Danny's ultimate, so you have to be careful, but that's why it's hard to play from behind.
I was right! Gnar is the most played top winner in the LCS with 420 plays.
Yeah, I'm
surprised. I didn't even mean to do that.
I'm surprised you're more excited about being right than about the number.
I'm equally excited for both. I don't normally do stats, and when I do, it's usually wrong. So
this one's getting pinned on the fridge.
Yeah, this is my drawing in first grade.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. That is gold star work right
I'm
there.
gonna bring you a sticker tomorrow.
I appreciate that. That's how you know. That's how you know Isaac's a true buddy. All right, Jojo, let's see if he ends up going in after Palafox here. Like you guys were already talking about, I mean, EG solo laner's playing pretty good here so far. Jojo goes into the smoke yet again, just not worried about anything. Here comes Impact, jumps over his head. Contractz, no way home. Why are you trying to make plays on Akali with a smoke screen up?
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. I think it's a tough situation for them because it feels like Gnar is so far ahead now that I don't think they feel comfortable to actually try to attack the Gnar, but they're going to lose 2v2s everywhere. Going in on Danny, but now Inspired's here.
Oh boy, Luger has a lot of chakrams, but Vulcan is a hungry Kench. And the money goes over to EG yet again, 4-1.
Just really well done by EG. They are crushing now. And I mean, Mark was getting to it earlier, but I just think the only way CLG can actually win this game is if you can create a side lane advantage, right? And that's why they're going towards the side lane. They picked the Gwen to try to be able to play through side. They picked the Taliyah to try to be able to kind of get that advantage. It's very similar, honestly, to what happened when they went with Fiora Vi, right? Yeah. Which I thought that was the same sort of style of plan, where you have a split pusher, you pair it with something that kind of can come in and really affect that 1v1 and try to put them ahead, because they're trying to split the map, but when both your solo laners are losing, it's very hard to really find. Yeah. And also, they just didn't draft any lockdowns. So I do think they're going to struggle from this position big time, especially because if you're Gnar, if you're concerned at all, you can even just build a little bit of MR, and Gwen, Taliyah are never going to threaten you.
Yeah, I mean, he got the Merc Treads completed right away off that solo kill. And after that, felt like they just ignored the Gnar. But good use of the TP as well by Impact staying involved in that play and kind of spreading his advantage around. For the CLG side, this is a little concerning because they're about just above 500. If this game does end up slipping away from them, they're going to fall. And right now, the race, ooh.
It's Akali again, man. Akali with smoke screen.
Good
Even
chunk,
if they
though.
find a little bit of progress, it's hard to actually take it all the way. The dragon has spawned. Remember, it is 2-0 EG lead in terms of the Drake count. So CLG, they're all grouped up. They're ready to actually fight for this one, but they're down 4,000 gold. It's going to have to be a hell of an engage. I've got my eyes on Poome for it. CLG, if they choose to fight this,
Jojo's going around
have
behind
to work
them.
together. Contractz
Jojo's
is
gonna find
completely thrown away, trying to alley-oop him over to the mid laner. Jojo turns his attention over to Luger now instead as Poome tries to provide some cover, but sacrifices his life. Palafox has to revert his position as Dhokla runs away, but there's no way out. Jojo again just dancing around these guys, and Dhokla can't find a single kill. It's EG picking up 3.
Inspire's Poppy ultimate just eviscerated CLG's battle lines. It felt like as soon as the Taliyah got yeeted out of there, it was an alley-oop potentially for the jojopyun's Akali, then everyone starts breaking apart, just mad scramble, just fight after fight going in EG's favor.
That was almost like straight up like alley-oop off the backboard. He like throws Taliyah up, he's like, here, Jojo. Jojo's coming up, looking for the dunk, he has to flash out of there. This is sick, man. I mean, it's the wraparound here, you know, from Jojo. Jojo's coming up this area, and then Knockout from this side actually knocks them right up towards him. This is really well played. Right up in the area, Jojo's coming in, so Contractz sees him and realizes, oh God, I gotta get out of there. So he's flashing out. Luger and Poome are retreating, but they're retreating back into Jojo, so it's just, they got completely destroyed by the ultimate. EG's team fighting is way too good. Their laning has been way too good. They are just looking on a complete another level than CLG.
And that's the kind of coordination I love to see. EG trying to do it again now as Luger just gets destroyed, man. There's no way to deal with that. As an Aphelios with one item versus Akali like that, it's just not happening. 8-1, 7,500 gold. Soul point on the Drake. I would say, why don't they just march over and get Baron? But we're so early in the game, he's not even alive yet.
There has been times in scrims, you know, where you get those kills, you get an ace, and you're like, Baron! And you're like, wait, 18 minutes. I can't go there. Yeah, EG are dominating. 7,000 gold advantage. Next time they do that play, I want to get the voice comms and see if they actually call alley-oop. Well, someone's got to make that happen. The Poppy ult into a flanker.
The thing that I really hope that was coordinated, because, you know, you've seen Poppy ults so many times. Everybody knows, yeah, it just yeets them out of there. Yeah. But practicing how far does it yeet, knowing, hey, he's going to go back this way, knowing the vector
get the
of
wind speed, you know,
exactly.
the direct effect sometimes.
Air resistance and all of that, and then you immediately have your guy ready to just pop him.
How aerodynamic
that
is
was
the
awesome.
champion you're eating.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot that goes into this.
There's a lot of NASA researches this stuff. Jojo trying to get away here.
No.
Poome and Palafox looking for it. Senna shield.
Yes.
Palafox can't finish this one off. Jojo stays alive yet again. This Akali just unkillable in this game. Oh, maybe not. Nope, he baits him in. Poome's trying to get out. JoJo's going back in. JoJo is the guy who will take the 1-for-1 trade because it's money in his pocket.
It's worth, though. They find the shutdown onto JoJo, and they might be able to get out of here. Palafox, last one in trouble, but it's only Vulcan.
Palafox does not have his ulti to get away with here either, so that's something that CLG's has got to be aware of. Inspire comes in, slamming Luger into the wall. Aphelios can just not play League of Legends. Vulcan now disengaging away from Dhokla as Palafox tries to find a little bit of a knock-up to facilitate something, but it just won't work. They're too far behind. Danny picks up a kill, and CLG lose 2 more.
8,000 gold, it's only Vulcan. Disrespecting the catfish like that, Mark.
Hey, he put a ward down, then TP'd the Gnar, and
Exactly.
that was the Gnar.
That was good assist. We count those.
I mean, I like the attempt by CLG. You got to get scrappy. You got to look for these kind of fights where the battle lines have not fully been established yet, and that was a good opportunity. But like you said, a bit of a wallet diff on some of those skirmishes.
It's at that point in the game where Evil Geniuses is going to have to make a hell of a mistake for CLG to be able to come back, but EG is just not giving them the opportunity. Palafox and Poome are both hanging out. Palafox wants to see if he can get anything. There's no shot at that happening, but when you're down this far, you've just got to throw a couple Hail Marys and see if something might miraculously work. 12-2, Baron, 10,000 gold lead. It's all but over.
I mean, Contractz is on the other side of the map there. You know, got to try to go for it, but Inspired has the W, stuffs him as he tries to hop into the pit there, and now EG are pushing. No one answering Impact up in top lane just yet, so he's on the tier 2. And they have 4-man squad mid here, and they are looking to close this one out very quickly. One of the most dominant games we have seen in a while. EG are crushing.
And Poome tried to use the ulti in the jungle. Dhokla's already dead. CLG does not have one of their big fighters, and they do not have their main engage mechanism. The defense here is going to border on impossible, as EG has a 3-2 split ready to commit to the base dive. JoJo's in the smoke, and Poome's in the dirt. Danny grabs the kill, and JoJo's just juking him out at this point. Oh man, this is so fun to play if you're EG, and this is so miserable if you're CLG. They're just clowning on you doing goofy stuff now.
Yeah, to go next fast angle for sure. They did get the flash out of Danny from Poome's ultimate earlier.
Ooh.
I did like the idea there where
There
Poome
you
tried
go.
to get it, but Danny's got too good at footwork, stepped out of that one as well. So maybe that's your angle. Keep a countdown on that flash timer. Maybe you can find him at the next dragon fight.
Yeah.
If you're going to contest.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be much of a dragon fight. It's up here in 5 seconds. 12,000 gold lead for EG. They should just be able to walk down to this one and take it. If you're Contractz, you're painfully aware of what happened last time, and you do not want to be on the receiving end of a poppy hammer.
Just all the item completions are so sad. You know, it's like you look across, and it's like everyone's a full item up, an item and a half up.
What are you talking about? Aphelios has 4 items. Just 2 of them are long swords.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel
He still
great.
has way more guns.
The legendary
Really just
item.
isn't
Yeah.
fair, you know?
Well, Contractz is going to be zoned off by Impact. EG just seeing if CLG will get a little bit too trigger happy. Might jump in there and try to make something happen before they should. Poome's going in with the quickness. He's just slammed into the wall.
He's out with the quickness, too.
That was pretty quick, I'll tell you that. Dhokla's trying to survive in the middle of 5, but he can't do it. Palafox jumps in. There are no dead players on EG. There's nobody even close. Contractz and Luger are fighting the blue buff, while Palafox is about to get slammed by Impact. That'll be the Dragon Soul. CLG at least got their blue. They'll head back. Contractz will take Gromp. Doesn't really matter a whole lot, because EG, they know that they killed 3 players. They know that they've got the momentum. They got the soul. They're pushing down.
Between the two of you, you're painting all the win conditions here for CLG. You know, they got Danny's flash. They got their own blue buff.
Yeah, it's really important, man. Anyway, Vulcan thrown up into the air. Poome, Luger, Contractz put the damage into him. They might be able to take him down here, but it will be a support trade 1-for-1. Teleport brings JoJo back into the push, and EG is not stopping anytime soon. Palafox is going to come back to life here in under 10 seconds. The minion wave's ready to go. The Baron still enchanting, but now wears off. Dhokla falling back a little bit. Contractz trying to throw those rocks out there, find any damage he can. Gnar comes out. Dhokla's going to be the focus, and he's already down. JoJo grabs that kill as Palafox looks for a little bit more, but immediately resets his position, but Luger can't do the same. Aphelios dead now for the 3rd time. This pick did not work out for CLG here, as Evil Geniuses still keeping the push going. 1 Nexus turret remaining at about half HP. CLG, they can barely leave the stairs of the fountain.
as Impact is trying to take down the Nexus and everybody else is looking to pad the stats. Jojo's still staying alive there with a stasis. Poome coming in looking for the knockup, but he won't be able to get much as Contractz falls back and Palafox falls in, trying to get him, but all he gets is another death. 0, 4, and 0. This was
Ocean is so unfair.
the win streak, Yone, they were hoping for. EG just slaughtered.
EG continue their blitz through the LCS up to 9-1. So far, one of the most dominant splits we've seen in North America. They are up there with the likes of 2016 Immortals, 2020 Spring, C9. They're trying to cement themselves as having one of the most dominant regular seasons ever.
And that was the fastest game of the split thus far. EG absolutely crushing them. Bullying CLG at the well in the Ocean Soul there, man.
22-3. That's 7.5, 100% win rate. Yone was 0, 4, and 0. They completely shut him down.
Yeah. I mean, the laning from EG was great. The team play was great. The objective setup was great. The draft was great. It's like check. Like everything went well for them. And very quickly it became apparent that CLG could just not hang with EG here today. You know, they drafted, I think, to try to create some of these side lane advantages, to try to get some pressure through that. But, you know, Impact solo kills Dhokla up on top side. Jojo was way up in farm in mid lane. They just didn't really have a lot of ways in. Inspired was excellent on the Poppy, shutting down so many of the engages. You know, Vulcan and Danny were just kind of stalwart on the Senna TK. They really, everyone did their job here, and EG made it look like an incredibly easy team win.
And back to what you were talking about at the beginning when I was asking, hey, what do we expect from jungle pathing and things like that? There wasn't a lot of setup in terms of CLG being able to shut it down, being able to find any sort of a counterpunch. Impact just getting that solo kill. That was the lane where things looked good early on for CLG, right? After Dhokla nearly got the solo kill on him, you were talking about the state of the minion wave. Everything was phenomenal. Then Gnar. And then all of a sudden, wait, where's our good lane at? Mid lane's not going good. Bottom lane's dead even in one of those
farm lanes.
Yeah, one of the Bedge matchups where nothing really happened. You concede the first 2 Drakes. It just looked like there wasn't really a plan for CLG that had any chance of materializing with what EG brought to the table.
And that's what I think CLG needs to look back on, because a lot of their early games have been the focus of their drafts, and then sometimes something goes off the rails. And like we were saying, they're now 500, sitting at 5-5. And there's a lot of teams that are trying to make that surge into the top half so they can have better seeding. You know, they have Golden Guardian top behind them at 4 and 5. You have FlyQuest in there. There's a lot of teams that I think can start challenging you for that top 5 position.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, sometimes they're getting, CLG is maybe getting hyper-focused on some of these individual picks and losing sight of like how their comp functions, right? I think Taliyah is a great pick. The fact that you can pick it early, it could be a potential flex, that was powerful for the draft. But I think the fact that they have no point and click CC for it, I think really does make it very difficult. It limits your options so heavily for Contractz. And we saw when you're playing against players who are at this level that EG is, so many times the seismic shove is just getting sidestepped, right? Like if you don't have the lockdown, you can't guarantee it against players of this level. So, you know, a difficult game for CLG, but hopefully they can learn from it.
Well, EG were looking good. So now it's time to unload the toad. Pastry is standing by for an interview with Vulcan.
Thank you very much. I am here with EG's own Vulcan. I was told to give this to you. I don't really know why, but that's yours apparently. Awesome.
Thank you. I was looking for it because I just came back from my shift.
Oh, okay, nice. That makes sense. So on, I guess, your other job, which is beating people in record time in the LCS Splits. Were you guys mad at CLG or what happened?
Yeah, we were after that close game that we had against them in the first round robin where we were pushing to end and then our Elder buff ran out and they all survived at 1 HP and then Impact got drunk on his Gragas, drinking too much from his barrel. So we were pretty pissed and we had to, you know, take it back. So.
And it feels like in general, I mean, EG have been on an absolute tear and it's scary to think that this team is only powering up. I think everyone, ourselves, maybe you as well, expected some sort of dip. What's going on with EG? You guys took a vacation and got even better.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's mostly our competition is kind of struggling, I guess. Also, we are like doing a good job at pacing ourselves and not going too hard in practice and making sure that we're not going to be burning out. And it's a very big thing for us at the moment. So yeah, and then, I mean, TL doesn't look as good as they were looking before during the year. C9 is kind of figuring themselves out. And so I think it's just, we're very good, yes, but I think our competition will get there eventually, but right now they're not quite on our level.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we expect, you know, obviously you're going to hit a bump at some point. Is that going to be in playoffs, or do you think the regular season, especially as we get closer towards the postseason, things will really ramp up as teams are vying for those spots?
probably going into playoffs for at least the teams that have a lot of veterans like TL, like C9. I think usually these teams, these players will be able to kind of, I don't know, rally in playoffs, I suppose. I hope they don't, but yeah.
And then kind of on that note, obviously EG looking to defend this title. How does that process work for a team that obviously has a long year, still has a long year ahead? What you talked about process and making sure the team doesn't get burnt out. What does that look like from the EG side?
It's very similar to like how I said before. We're pacing ourselves. We're not taking scrims too seriously. If there's a classic Fiesta game where it's a bit wild, maybe we'll take it easy and not go too hard in reviews, and making sure that we don't focus too much on our own weaknesses, or when bad days happen, we won't focus too much on fixing it. We'll just be like, oh well, that was a day, and then move on. And we know that we're in a really good spot already. Obviously, we're trying to not get complacent because, especially personally, that's something that happened back on C9 in 2020, where we were smurfing on everything and then suddenly didn't make Worlds. So I'm aware of those kind of things, and I don't think we're getting very complacent. But it's a hard balance to find, to try and not get complacent, but also take it easy to not run out of gas, right? So, and I think we're doing a great job at finding the balance right now.
Yeah, I'd say so, given that you're breaking record times for the split and everything. Vulcan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, well, EG, another very swift win in the books, but don't go too far. We have more matchups coming up. It is IMT taking on TL after this.
Oh, nicely done with the cancel. There is Impact.
Oh,
the tower
Dhokla
shots.
back into the turret, and he's already down. Impact first blood. Jojo turns his attention over to Luger now instead as Poome tries to provide some cover, but sacrifices his life. Palafox has to revert his position as Dhokla runs away, but there's no way out. Jojo again just dancing around these guys. Inspire comes in, slamming Luger into the wall. Aphelios can just not play League of Legends. Vulcan now disengaging away from Dhokla as Palafox tries to find a little bit of a knockup to facilitate something, but it just won't work. They're too far behind.
Hey, Ash, what's your plan?
A new and very serious game, Jake from State Farm, but these in-game purchases are wrecking my wallet. I can't keep sparkling, Jake. I need a sparkle.
State Farm has options like combining home and auto, so you get a rate that fits your budget.
Very nice. The gameplay is really strategic, I swear.
For surprisingly great rates that fit any budget, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
Red Bull gives you wings.